Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. Welcome to the Crash Course on Keywords webinar. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. If you would like to ask a question during the presentation, please use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen. If you need to reach an operator at any time, please press *0. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded Wednesday, December 15, 2010. I would now like to turn the conference over to Elaine Ellis, Marketing Manager. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Welcome to today's webinar, Crash Course on Keywords. This is Trada. We are the first and only crowdsourced paid search marketplace. Today's crash course will be a basic overview, a 101 on keywords. You can ask any questions you'd like, and we will answer them at the end. We'll also be showing pictures from Mad Men, the original pioneers in advertising. If you are a Twitter user, our hashtag today will be Keywords Webinar, and we'll also be live tweeting. Today we'll give you an overview of research for keywords, the deal on head and long tail keywords, the different keyword types available, what dynamic keyword insertion is and how you can use it, some information on how to select a bid price and what you should be looking for with your analysis to see if your keywords are successful, and then we'll give you a quick overview of Trada. Today's speakers will be Dan Tisser and myself. Dan has more than 5 years of paid search experience, as well as other experience in interactive marketing, including SEO. I am fairly new to paid search marketing, but about 7 years of PR and social media marketing experience, and it will definitely understand for those of you who are new to PPC the confusion that can go into it. So we're going to start with the very basics. What is a keyword? When people search for something online, they choose search terms to define what they're looking for. So for someone who's looking for paid search, they're going to put in paid search or PPC advertising. Within each paid search campaign, we select keywords that we think people are going to look for, so the product and services. So our keywords would be things like PPC advertising. And then the paid search ad is triggered when someone uses search terms that match the keywords. So how do you select all of those different keywords? Well, you do research. And we're going to start with the two basic tools that we think you guys can use that's available to anyone, whether you have a Google AdWords account or not. And that is the Google AdWords tool. And what it does, and you can just find this by Googling Google AdWords tool, is it gives you a word or phrase or website that you put in, and we put in Trada, and it gave us all the different search terms that we could possibly use. It gives us how often they're searched, how competitive they are. For us, paid search is extremely competitive. Another tool that we'd like to show you is the Google Wonder Wheel, and you'll find this when you search for something on the left-hand side of Google, and you'll see what you do is you just put in a search term, and then for us, like if you did earn money, pay-per-click, it gives you all the different search terms that other people might use, and then you can drill down, and it gives you kind of a good analysis of how people search for things. And this is just the beginning. There are thousands of other research tools that can help you with what you're looking for. Here are some of our favorites and some of the favorites of Trada optimizers, and you can find all of these on our Trada blog that will help you get started. What we also wanted to talk about is the problem with keyword generation tools. Don't let the machines do all the work for you. When I first used a keyword generation tool, when I was getting started with paid search, and it gave me a bunch of terms, I wanted to use them all, and Dan told me if paid search was that easy, anyone could do it. So the problem one with keyword generation tool is you're going to get unapplicable keywords. So the solution to that is there's no easy way around it. You have to review every keyword you want to use from a generator before you upload it to a campaign. What you'll also see with keyword generation tools is they tell you what everybody else is looking for. So these are going to be high in demand, they can be very broad, and they may not convert, and then they end up chewing your budget. So you want to start your keywords that are taken from a keyword generator as phrase or exact match. And if you don't know what phrase or exact match is, don't worry, we're going to cover that in just a second. The other thing we wanted to talk about is looking at quickly social media tools that you can use to give you keyword ideas. Social media is how people think about things and talk about things. So you can use that. Like this is at replies to the Ford Twitter account, and it gives you different search terms that people could use. You know, like what they're looking for, buying experience, a test drive, a trade-in. So it gives you ideas that you can use to come up with longer keywords. Or another example I like is Yelp and Gap. This is a woman who went in and rated her shopping experience using Gap. And some of the things she used, reasonably priced, jeans that fit, you know, good styles, lots of sizes and colors. So people may not necessarily type in reasonably priced, but they are going to be looking at the differentials of price in different terms. So maybe they might be looking for affordable jeans. So it gives you ideas that you can use in your keyword tools. Next, Dan's going to talk about the difference with head and long tail keywords.
Great. Thanks, Elaine. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Head and long tail keywords are the keywords that are used to describe everything that is as far as the different techniques that we use for really describing how to use different keywords, what they mean, and what not to. So this is it's really industry jargon that we use around the office a lot, and it's used in the pay-per-click world. And we're going to pick this apart a little bit as just two different keyword creation techniques. The head to tail keywords are the ones that really are the top of mind. These are the ones that, you know, if you're Ford Motor Company, you're going to buy the keyword like Ford Mustang. Really the things that people will immediately think when they're either associating with your brand or your website. These keywords tend to drive a lot of traffic. It's the ones that are probably the ones that are most quickly put into the website, into the search engines that will get people landing on your website. They tend to have a lot more expensive bids, so this is based on an auction model, so it depends on how competitive things are. So if we're using that Ford Mustang example again, you're going to get things that are going to hit on eBay, Craigslist, Ford Motor Company, your local dealership, anywhere that someone might be picking up the Ford Mustang for publication. So because those keywords are very broad, they tend to drive less conversions. And what we mean by conversions is really the traffic as it hits your website and what you're trying to get people to do online. On the flip side of that, long tail keywords. These are keywords that tend to be 3 or more words. The traffic that comes from these long tail keywords converts at a much higher rate and a lower cost per click just because the demand is so much less. So if we're using that Ford Mustang and we use that as a head to tail example, but we put in a keyword for a local car dealership saying, come test drive the 2010 Ford Mustang today as a keyword, you're going to get much more qualified traffic, that you're getting the topical traffic around the Ford Mustang, that you're getting people to click on people that are looking for test drives, and then all the information pointing to a local dealership instead of just a broad traffic. So obviously the people that are reading about Ford Mustang are probably going to be a lot more broad versus the people that are actually looking to test drive one that might be further down the path of purchasing. So a question that we often get from advertisers and paid search experts, and especially when we have these type of conversations around these marketing 101 topics, is really how do you use the right mix? And the bottom line is you want to include head and long tail keywords in everything that's going on with your campaign. If you're really struggling as to which direction to take that in, the short answer is try it, test it, and see what happens, and look at your results from that. Some things to really ask yourself: if you're really in a niche industry that has a really narrow market, you could get away with probably more head to tail keywords just because of the very nature of who you are and what you do. And then also, have you exhausted all your keyword research, like those beautiful examples Elaine had in the social media world and your blogs and what people are saying about your products, or Facebook or previous customers, things like that. And then do you also have disambiguation for all those keywords? And also, do you have keywords and ad groups for all of your products? So if you're an e-commerce retail site and you have 5,000 products and corresponding thousands of landing pages, do you have keywords and ads and ad groups built around all the different parts of those websites? The bottom line is there's really no single solution for all this. At all campaigns, all websites, all businesses are different. Just like any other type of media or communication, that you're still relying on consumer behavior here, that you have information that is still being sorted out by people regardless if it happens in front of a billboard or a computer screen or a search engine. Oh, I probably skipped one there, didn't I? So keyword types, we talked about a little bit about the differences between the real high traffic, low converting keywords and the flip side to that with the long tail. Certain things that we're going to talk about in this next section are keyword types, and we're really going to start to jump into the different types of techniques that search engines use to really match the individual search queries with the particular keywords. So broad match keywords are the search engine searches for keywords that you're using, but also similar phrases and relevant variations. Broad match will include misspellings, plurals, synonyms, keyword permutations as well. So the broad match also tends to coincide with the same philosophy as the headed tail keywords, that these are your more generalized terms, longer phrases that allow permutations to drive a significant more amount of traffic to your ads and to your website. But also you can typically spend a lot less time coming up with those top of mind shorted tail broad match keywords. The cons of all that is that the traffic tends to be much less targeted, like I mentioned before with that Ford Mustang example, and less likely to convert. Those keywords do have a strong correlation to your ad and landing page, but they can also hurt your quality score if it results in low click-through rates. And quality score is something that of course, is almost an entirely different topic about how Google interacts with the relevancy to keywords, ads, and landing pages. A little bit narrow focus, that was probably the in-between as far as the focus of the different keywords is the phrase match. Search engines will only trigger phrase match keywords when the ads and the phrase that are put in as a keyword match. So to create those keywords and to use those when you implement those keywords into the keyword buying interface tools in those search engines, simply putting quotations around the particular keyword. The pros of that is that phrase match is definitely more targeted than the broad match, and it's a little bit more flexible than exact, which we'll go into in a minute. It has to include all those keywords that are in the phrase, but it also will allow for some permutations. So you tend to get a little bit more targeted traffic here. The real negative to that is that it won't drive the traffic that the broad match does. However, it can result in a little bit more targeted traffic, but not in volume. But it's not going to be quite as targeted as exact. And it's a nice in-between between the broad match and exact match. So to complete the whole spectrum of how you can match your different keywords, we're going to take a look at exact match. Exact match keywords are only triggered when ads exactly match the actual keyword. The way that you target exact match keywords inside of the keyword buying interfaces, put these brackets around it, as you can see at the top line there. These are extremely targeted ads. If you have a trademark name, for example, or a particular product that's exclusive to you that people are going to look for by name, it's a good example of how to use keywords that are in exact match. The negative to all this is that it drives very low volume, that you can go days without receiving a click for particular terms if you use them within an exact match scenario. Another keyword type that we have here, negative keywords. So keywords that you don't want people to use in particular. We find that the best use cases for negative keywords are keywords that you have some significant overlap into mainstream industry. For example, if we're using the automotive example and we're using that Ford Mustang, if you sell insurance and you know that you can get a particularly good rate on a Ford Mustang car insurance quote, and you are that insurance company, you would most likely go negative keyword list, the exact match negative keyword list of a Ford Mustang test drive, because that's really not the customer you're looking for. You're looking for someone that's looking for insurance around that Mustang. The nice thing is it helps really narrow down the erroneous traffic that you could get from broad match and other phrase match keywords that you tend to typically impact your quality score in a much more positive effect. You get rewarded from Google in particular on the quality score with more traffic, higher positioning, and then just better overall results at a cheaper price. The negatives to really using a lot of negative keywords is that you will tend to drive less traffic. If you're really after traffic, negative keywords might not necessarily be the best approach when building out your campaigns. Another use of keywords is branded keywords. So these are particular names. If you have any type of name recognition around your brand, your website, or your services, branded keywords can be extremely effective. So the real pro here is that you're going to pay less than everyone else, because if you have a brand that matches your domain, Google will reward you with a high quality score that will typically result in cheaper prices, better positioning that I mentioned before. And then the companies that rank high in SEO and PPC have a higher click-through rate because they're occupying more spots on the search engine result page. The real negative is that you're paying typically for traffic that you could have gotten for free. However, it's going to be a minimal cost. If you have a strong brand recognition around who you are, what you do, I would definitely recommend that you run branded keywords. So the next thing that we're going to tackle here is dynamic keyword insertion. This is an ad writing technique that has a strong correspondence to a well-manicured keyword list and ad groups that live inside of a paid search campaign. So what is dynamic keyword insertion? We often will abbreviate that as DKI. It's an advanced feature to help advertisers automate ad text creation. It helps people insert keywords into the ad groups that they've already generated automatically into your ads, and we'll show you how that all works. What it does is it helps minimize the time that you spend manually creating those ads and those individual one-offs with keyword creations. And it also targets users as people type things into the search engines. So this is how you use dynamic keyword insertion. So you write your ad in the format where we put what are called curly braces around the keyword. Simple online marketing that we're using for our try to ad example. When someone types in a particular search query that fits into the character limit, that will actually insert the search query into where they're going to have the actual field for the dynamic keyword insertion. Other examples that we actually have in one of our live ad groups right now, you can see how the different headlines will switch out for good professional online marketing, easy online, and affordable, things like that. Smart tips for using the DKI is that you typically don't want to use your real broad match keywords in here, that you're going to be basically taking away the effectiveness of using keywords that are very vague, that you're not going to get really good descriptors into where you're inserting into that dynamic keyword insertion. Definitely would recommend applying several keywords into this well-manicured keyword list and ad group, so you better target your information around what you're actually going to be inserting into when those ads do get inserted with those particular search phrases. And you don't want to use misspellings. So misspellings, if you have a play on words in your brand or in your website that is for a regular spelling, things like that, you don't want to use dynamic keyword insertion with those misspellings. That you want people to find your ad and your website for misspelling. However, you just don't want to insert that ad into it with a misspelling, just as not so much as a best practices for pay-per-click, but just general good English usage. And you should only use dynamic keyword insertion once in an ad. On occasion, I've personally used dynamic keyword insertion in the body copy and the descriptor lines. However, it just tends to be a little bit cleaner when you use it on the headline. And of course, make sure you get all the formatting right. There's all kinds of different ways of using the keyword insertion with title, casing, and whatnot too, and it's best to really take a deeper dive into that on your own, and you can see the various uses and ways to best maximize it. This all content came from one of our top optimizers, David Merrick, who's one of our active Trada optimizers, did a guest blog post for it, so we thank him for that. Next thing that we're going to talk about is bid price. I mean, obviously this is probably the most sensitive area around keyword creation, is best understanding what to pay per keyword. We're going to give you some real top-line strategies. We'll talk a little bit about the different ways of going out and finding where you should be relative to your bid prices and whatnot too. So to take it full circle with what Elaine was talking about earlier, is that we are going to take a look at the different ways that bid price is used, that all the major search engines have these bid prices for Google, Yahoo, Bing. It's an auction model that I mentioned before, and you will be paying an individual price for your particular campaign for that particular keyword. Your competition could actually be paying a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on how quality their content creation is around their website, how tight their ad groups are relating to the ads and keywords. So the thing I was mentioning before is that we're going to take it full circle with what Elaine mentioned. with these tools that we had. So this is a screen grab from inside the keyword buying interface inside Google, which is called their AdWords program. Very effective tool to kind of get a real quick back of the napkin analysis around average estimated bid price here. So paid search, obviously a busy industry that we all live in here at the Trotta offices, and you can see that for a real top of mind head to tail keyword such as paid search, that the estimated search traffic can range from $3.40 all the way up to $5 plus. You also get a really quick sense of the global monthly search volume, local search volume, the average bid price for that. When you do pay that $4.26 for the average bid price, that you'll get a 1.6 on the positioning relative to the top of the page, and that the estimated daily clicks around 6 clicks. 6 times that 426 results in that $30.46. Of course, you can drop this in multiple keywords at once. It's a great free tool that gives you that real quick analysis as to what you might be paying in the ballpark for bid price. So some major causes of keyword bid price fluctuations. Something that we're all kind of seeing right now in our own marketplace when we look at our numbers in aggregate is that, of course, the holidays is a huge time for e-commerce, that there's even things around busy shopping days online with Cyber Monday, which corresponds to the consumer buying of Black Friday. Current events will often drive up particular things, so if a particular product is getting a lot of press, that can increase the search volume, and that can create fluctuations in bid pricing. And then also, if you have competition that's coming in and buying the similar keywords or same keywords that you are buying in your current campaign, it raises the nature of the bid, and it goes up into higher pricing. And then your Google quality score. And the quality score is what I touched on before, which is almost its own topic, but it's the quantitative score that Google gives to your individual keyword relating to your ads that you write and the landing page that you have created. Huge, far-reaching implications with a good quality score is that you will receive higher positioning at a cheaper price with your ad showing more often for that particular search query. Of course, all the flip side to that and negative things happen with that when there's a poor quality score. So there's some solutions out there really to best understand how these fluctuations can be mitigated. Improving your quality score overall, improving click rates, improving a better user experience for people when they arrive at your site, and providing them with the relevant information relative to those ads and to the keywords are all things that will definitely help your quality score. And then also going into those long tail keywords where you get typically lower volume traffic, but it tends to convert at a much higher rate because you're getting at a much more targeted audience. You also want to eliminate your overpriced keywords that are not converting. There could be keywords that send a ton of traffic, that have fantastic click-through rates, that is not really resulting in traffic that is converting or resulting in new customers or whatever that desired behavior that you're trying to create with your online presence. And then also what you should do is take a look at what you have on your broad match, and this kind of ties into the overpriced keywords, that the broad match tend to be a little bit more expensive. Send that generalized traffic that you're not getting people that are further down the purchase cycle that are more likely are going to be researching on particular broad stroke categories if it hits your particular product. Another thing that we've actually been pleasantly surprised about is advertising on the other networks like Bing. Bing has been a fantastic source, especially for us in the business-to-consumer world, where we tend to get not necessarily at the same kind of volume by any means that Google sends, but the traffic tends to be a little bit cheaper and converts at a little bit higher rate. And so it's been a very nice, pleasant surprise working inside the Bing Ad Center network. So analysis. This is, we've talked a little bit about how to get everything up and running and started within your paid search program. What we're going to do is really take a look at the numbers and figure out what to do for your next step after you go and you create your broad match, exact match, phrase match, negatives, branded, head to tail, long tail. What do you do when it all starts coming in with some important numbers? I had a marketing professor way back when tell me that the numbers will always tell the story, and that's a little bit of what we're going to touch on here. So clicks. Often referred to as hits. Clicks is very much the Web 2.0 terminology for inbound traffic that we get from ads coming in from your particular keywords and ads. The impressions is really the number of times that your ad was viewed but not necessarily clicked on. So there's an exposure inside the search engine result pages that we're talking about here that shows that how many times people actually viewed your ad without necessarily clicking on it. And then the click-through rate is the math between those two and understanding the number of users who clicked on your ad versus the number of people that viewed your ad in an impression. And then conversion, when someone takes action, conversion can manifest itself in several different forms. It can be a purchase of a hard good, sign up for a quote for a service. It's really, we call it conversion, is really the desired behavior that you have for people when they reach your website and what you're trying to get that traffic to do. Is it pick up the phone, download a white paper, purchase a product, sign up for a contact us form. And then your cost per acquisition, since we're talking about the amount of money that you're spending per click and then the amount of conversions that results in, really helps understand your cost per acquisition, or you could also call that cost per conversion. We call it CPA generically. It's really the total ad spend required to get a visitor to take a desired action, the purchase of an item or sign up or as a lead. So understanding also where things are coming in relative to the amount of traffic purchase relative to how much business that resulted in, knowing those numbers will help you best understand as to whether your cost per acquisition falls in line to a successful paid search effort or not.
So what we'd love to do is wrap up and allow for some of the great questions that we've been asked. We wanted to tell you a little bit about ourselves first. Trada is the world's first and only crowdsourced paid search marketplace. We have about 700 paid search experts in our marketplace who help advertisers put together the campaigns. They come up with the keywords, the ad groups, the ads, and then they help you optimize your performance. But as an advertiser, you still get the controls on the campaign. You can improve your ads and improve your keywords. And then we also are always looking for new Trada optimizers. So if you're interested, you can join Trada as a PPC expert. You can earn money risk-free, working when and where you want. Trada is very flexible. You don't have to find or manage your own clients. You choose the types of campaigns you want to work on, and you join a community of great PPC experts. So you can check us out at trada.com. And then after the presentation, if you'd like to hang out with us online, you can find us at trada.com, trada.com/blog, and Twitter at Trada. We are always offering new webinars. We have a lot of different blog posts that we do, kind of helping you guys work through the nuances of paid search. And finally, we wanted to let you know about our next webinar when we asked people what the biggest challenge they were facing within paid search. Many of you guys were understanding the ROI of a paid search campaign. So that's what our next webinar will focus on in January. Look for that in your email. And so now we'll take some questions for Dan. We've been receiving a lot of great ones. One I wanted to start with, Dan, is what quality score numbers are considered so low that you should delete the keywords? Is it 1, 2, 3? When do you delete keywords? That's
a fantastic question. So to take it from the top, keyword quality score is a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. Obviously has those far-reaching implications I mentioned before about ad positioning, how often an ad gets shown and for what individual bid price it is on that particular keyword. Anything below a 5 is generally considered a poor converting keyword. Might not necessarily be a position for where you want to delete it, though. Just the fact that you have a poor keyword doesn't mean it could work better with a different landing page, or if you want to break it out into a separate ad group and to maybe try some new ad copy, new landing page that might have more relevancy. So if you have a particular product that has a poor quality score, but you are sending traffic to your home page, maybe it's best to break that keyword out into a separate ad group, point it towards a specific landing page that has higher instances of that keyword actually being on the landing page and could actually result in a particularly higher quality score that second time around. So if you get poor quality score, not necessarily your next behavior is to delete that particular keyword, but maybe break it out into its own ad group.
Another great question was, should you buy competitor keywords? So should you buy keywords for your competitors' names?
That's a fantastic question, and it's something that we get often here. The reason why we didn't include that in the presentation is it tends to be what I consider to be a secondary strategy. Typically what happens when you're building a paid search campaign, there's so much work that goes into the headed tail, long tail, all the different match types, negatives, branded, things like that. Once you get those narrowed down, you get those things parted out, like for example, like that quality score example, and you get a really good successful campaign built, I would recommend going after competitor keywords as a secondary strategy. Reason being is that it's the exact opposite for why branded keywords are so cheap, and a good place to start for keywords is that competitor keywords tend to be real expensive. There's some restrictions around how you can use those competitor keywords inside of ad copy or lack thereof. And you become that person then paying more for that. Unless you have really specific instances on your website, mentions in your copy within the content of the website of saying why you're better than your competitor, I would recommend that as being a secondary strategy. But the short answer is yes, definitely go buy them.
When setting up a new campaign, do you recommend using all 3 match types for every keyword from the start?
Oh, if time was unlimited, sure. It's more of when you get into the specific match types and you want to use the different instances, I would recommend putting that around your headed tail keywords. If you have the bandwidth to go out there and do that for every one of your keywords and use them, and then you get a real feel for what people are actually searching on, you can do some search query reporting inside of Google AdWords that tells you exactly how keywords are relating to what was literally typed into the search engines. If you best understand that, you can also understand as to which match type you should use. If people are using things within your broad match keywords instead of very long search queries, might be a good use case to move things over to broader exact match.
If you are a small biz, what is the monthly minimum spend you should budget for?
Oh boy, it depends. That's a great question. It really depends on how much you're willing to spare and what you have in your budgets, of course. That being said, there's definitely some things that you can kind of take a quick kind of broad stroke market survey. So if you're in then what I'm really getting at is what you're paying per click, and really how that relates to what you want to go spend in your search budget overall. If you are a DUI or wrongful death litigation law firm, for example, that's probably some of the most expensive space out there. You're paying in the upwards of $20, $30, even up to $50 a click. Reason being why that traffic is so expensive, aside from it being extremely competitive, is that the conversion that results in that particular arena. If you pick up a DUI case in a new client, that can result in $10,000 in legal fees. If it's wrongful death litigation, can result in millions of dollars in legal fees and also percent of case won. That being said, the flip side to that, if you're selling children's toys online and you have a $20, $30 price point, you're probably going to be spending $1 or so on traffic on that. So taking those into account can typically affect as to whether a campaign's budget should be. The best thing I can tell you is you break off as much budget as you're willing to lose, or take off spend from some of your traditional marketing activities if you've been doing anything in those traditional outlets in magazine, outdoor, direct mail, things like that. And put it towards pay-click. If you start to see that you're maxing out your business, resulting in a tremendous amount of conversions, you can come back and raise those budgets up. So the small business budgets, but if I had to really attach a number to it, and you wanted to go test, and you say you had 3 months to really go test and really commit a lot of time to it, if I'd attach a number to it, $500 a month to get started.
We have a Trada-related question.
Okay.
Does Trada charge based on conversions?
That's a great question. The short answer is yes. So there's a couple different pricing models that we have in place there, and that's one of the 2 pricing models. But the short answer is yeah, we do price per acquisition pricing once we get a campaign narrowly focused and performing below the overall cost per acquisition goals. Trada does have the ability to track things from the first click regardless of what payment model it's in, and we are always trying to focus around cost per acquisition and stay below those goals, and then move things over to the other pricing model where you would be paying for acquisition. But yeah, short answer is we do.
What tips do you have to improve a poorly performing ad campaign?
Oh boy, it can be any number of things. I think if you're trying to mitigate spend, if you have a campaign that's out of control, that's spending too much, first of all, make sure conversion tracking's in place, that you know what people are doing when they get to your website. If those clicks are actually resulting in conversions, I'd put that in from day one to track what you're spending against your acquisition conversion numbers. Second pass, if you do have that implemented there and you have an overspending campaign, that you would want to go eliminate those keywords that are sending a tremendous amount of traffic, that are spending a bunch of money but not resulting in conversions, and start to curate your information on that. Poor performing can also mean if it's underspending, if it's not sending a lot of traffic, go do some more keyword research. Take some of these techniques that we've mentioned here today about going after maybe some more head-tail keywords if you want to increase volume. And then also long tail as well. Also taking a look at how people arrive at your website, and understanding how people are connecting with the information on your website drastically affects how well a paid search campaign is performing. If it looks like you need to do a website redesign or add more content, or just overall work on the mechanics of your website, shut down your pay-per-click account. Google will keep it live. I would say almost indefinitely, as long as there's money in the account, and then when those improvements are made, you can turn your campaign back on.
Question was related to how do you access the dynamic keyword insertion tool, or learn more about dynamic keyword insertion?
To access the tool, it's really not like a separate tool that actually lives inside the keyword buying interface. It's something that's just as you write those ads, including those curly brackets. There is a ton of information out there on dynamic keyword insertion. Quite honestly, some of the best resources out there, Google has a fantastic support blog and tutorial on how dynamic keyword insertion works. I think just about every blogger out there has.
And we did a blog post last week.
I was going to say, yeah, we did one as well. I've done some stuff on my own guest blogging too. That it's probably the topic that comes up, I would say, most frequently inside of, if you go to a search engine strategies type trade show, that there's almost a little snippet on that. But there's a wealth of information on how it works and how to best maximize it. So, yeah, check out our blog, and then also Google it, and then AdWords Support has a fantastic piece of information on dynamic keyword insertion.
Great. What could be the reason for a low quality score if you have a relevant ad and landing page and a high click-through rate?
If you typically have a high click, so the thing with quality score is that Google has been fairly purposely vague over the past couple of years on it. If you were to go look at the definition of quality score from a official AdWords position, the definition hasn't changed much. Typically, if you have a high click-through rate, you should have good quality score. You might be underbidding in prices, and they might be dinging you on that. There might also be a function of how well your website really is from a search engine optimization standpoint, as to whether Google is looking at your website correctly if you're getting poor quality scores. If that's the case, I would break out. So there's a technique out there called query parsing, where you'll break out poor performing keywords in separate ad groups, write new ads, send them to maybe a different page to make sure it's not a web page, and then just really go test and then see if you can get poor keywords that you think are relevant maybe into a new ad group, and then see where you can go from there. But if you continually have poor quality score, it could be a search engine optimization content issue.
One question, which is a bit of a technical question, from the slides we showed earlier, from like Google Traffic Estimator, how do you define local and local search volume?
It's kind of vague, to be honest with you. It really depends where you live. So the actual official one, I would have to go see and where they actually put the estimation at. The best way to really maximize that tool is not necessarily go look at the local search volume. The best thing I really use that for is kind of getting that back of the napkin approach to bid pricing. I've always kind of used the information around search volume kind of anecdotally. I mean, that's great that they think that you could get 30,000 clicks in your local location, but it's hard to say. If anything, I feel those numbers personally are a little higher. If I had another paid search expert in the room, they might have the actual number around how big that area is. AdWords, I'm sure, could answer it for you quick with a quick support call. But the best way to really use that tool is to figure out bid pricing. But good question, though. I'm kind of curious on that.
Great question. Two questions about the new modified broad match, and does that work in AdWords? And then most recent question, do you feel broad match modifier is really effective?
Yeah, so that is something that does work inside of AdWords. I haven't had a chance to really play around with the modifier a tremendous amount. It seems to be pretty effective. Just another small tool that's inside the whole arsenal of the different match types. I haven't had a really chance to go effectively test it, but I typically, as far as this and an overall approach, I typically will almost always start in the phrase match, and then if I need to open up channels a little bit more, I go into the broad match. So I haven't had a tremendous amount of experience inside the broad match modifier, but everything that I've heard in the blogosphere has been very positive around it.
What tools and methods do you use to help find negative keywords before they appear in the search query report?
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to know beyond the WordStream negative keyword tool.
Never really used the negative WordStream negative keyword tool. Typically, top of mind is probably the best place to start inside the negative keyword world to really best understand that. It is a fairly reactionary approach. I think the search query tools are typically the best to see if you're getting a lot of erroneous traffic that is resulting in clicks that are not relevant that might make sense to go after. The best use cases, like I mentioned before, if you have overlap in industries where you don't want their traffic, starting out with a negative keyword use and just knowing your industry is probably the best proactive tool that you can use to best understand.
Next question was related to, in an earlier slide, we talked about the disambiguation of keywords, and I don't think we gave a good explanation of plural and spelling. So if you could explain what we mean with the different keywords you can use disambiguation. Well, and maybe I could kind of talk about this briefly. I think we were referring to, with keywords, you don't want to necessarily just put in the word. You might want to put in plurals or different variations or misspelling. So that's something to think about. Great question. How often, if ever, should you do an audit of your keywords and delete or pause underperforming terms?
I would almost come back with more questions to that, like what's the seasonality around your products, what's your buying cycle, is it a long purchase cycle, is it slow, and then better understanding those intervals. What I would not do is do too short of an interval if it's within hours or days. Typically, we measure everything as from a performance standpoint at a month. What really becomes nice is that if you have year over year, month over month information that you can go compare things at. There's really no broad stroke answer I can give to really when's the best time to take those audits. But we do recommend that you definitely check back often if you start to see bid prices start to go up. It could be one of those externalities we talked about around competitive nature or seasonality. But I almost want to ask more questions around, around like what your buying cycles are like and things like that, and to understand those before you go back and point yourself inward to look at your keywords again.
We have a great question about Trada. Lamberto does international SEM campaigns for his company in-house. What does he need to do to apply to Trada to do campaigns freelance?
Well, if you want to become an optimizer, we do actually have some great content on our website that explains how the whole program works. There's an exam that we put everyone through. We also do a little bit of a PPC, search engine marketing background check, looking at your certifications and one as well. If you want to join your freelance community, I'd recommend that you come in, read our information around that. We do actually have an entire department within Trada dedicated to not only just optimizer recruitment, but kind of the vetting process and running that entire community too. So if you do get more advanced questions on that, we do have a contact us for more information around becoming a Trada optimizer.
Great. To be sensitive to everyone's time, we're going to take 2 more questions. And we have one that we didn't answer already. When someone imports keywords to Microsoft Ad Center, can they make the keywords all broad phrase and exact match at the same time?
It depends. I mean, so the import tools, typically the way that I've been doing those outside of Trada is that I've been zipping up CSVs out of AdWords Editor and sending them off to an account rep inside of Ad Center. It really depends on how much you're spending and how much of your year they have in regards to that. What they typically won't do is go in there and actually say, here's all my phrase match. I want them also put out in exact and broad. Typically that's stuff that you'll have to do, and I'd recommend that you take a look at that data as opposed to trusting someone inside Ad Center to do it for you. and do it manually, bouncing it between the Excel and plain text editor tools out there that you can take those keywords and to go build out and add keywords to your editor files for those importations is pretty quick. It's more of how much of an Excel power user you are. But typically that's something that you'll have to go and add manually. And I'd recommend that you do it manually so you see exactly what's going on and make sure it's done right.
Great. We have our last question. How is cost per click affected by geo-specific limitations? Do you typically pay more or less?
Great question. In short, you typically will pay less just because you're dealing in a less competitive nature. If you're buying, Ford Mustang locally as opposed to nationally, that you'll typically get less search volume if you go drill down to a tighter geographic location as opposed to buying it nationally or globally. And that because there is less volume, typically less competition that might be working in that particular space specifically. If you show that you retain a good quality score for that local search volume, you should get reductions in that. So if we're in Boulder, Colorado, and if you say drive a Ford Mustang in Boulder, Colorado, and people are typing in those Boulder, Colorado keyword combinations with a Ford Mustang, you're going to result in higher quality traffic. There's Boulder content on your website. You will get a higher quality score and typically a cheaper price.
Okay, thank you guys so much. If we were not able to answer your question, or if you had additional questions that you weren't able to ask, feel free to email me at ellis@trata.com. And we thank everyone so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the conference call for today. We thank you for your participation and ask that you please disconnect your lines.